In the spring of 1453, the world held its breath. At the crossroads of two continents between East and West stood a city that had outlasted empires, plagues, crusades, and time itself, Constantinople, the shining crown of Byzantium. For more than 1,000 years, its mighty walls had stood undefeated. Armies had come, kings had fallen, but the city endured, proud, defiant, eternal. Until now, because from the east a new storm was rising, led by a young, relentless ruler who believed he was chosen by destiny itself. Mehmed II, the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, barely 21 years old, yet driven by an ambition greater than any emperor before him. His dream? To conquer the unconquerable, to claim the city that had stood for a millennium as the heart of Christendom. And so began the final siege of Constantinople. Mehmed was not like his father. He was not patient, nor content with slow expansion. He was a man possessed by a vision, a single city that haunted his every thought. To him, Constantinople was more than a fortress. It was prophecy. The Prophet Muhammad himself was said to have foretold that one day a great ruler from Islam would capture the city, and Mehmed believed he was that ruler. While Europe slept in complacency, Mehmed prepared for destiny. He gathered an army of over 80,000 men, janissaries, archers, cavalry, and engineers, and something new, something terrible: giant cannons, the largest the world had ever seen. These monstrous guns, forged by a Hungarian engineer named Urban, could hurl stone balls weighing half a ton, powerful enough to shatter the unshakable walls of emperors. And so, as the morning sun rose over the Bosphorus, the thunder of iron would soon rewrite history. Inside the wall stood Constantine the Palaiologos, the last emperor of Byzantium. He ruled over a dying empire, once vast, now reduced to a single city surrounded by enemies and sea. Yet his heart burned with pride. Constantine was no coward. He would not abandon the legacy of his ancestors. Though his army numbered barely 7,000 defenders, he vowed to hold the city until his final breath. The people prayed in Hagia Sophia, the great church of divine wisdom, its domes echoing with the songs of faith and desperation. Merchants, monks, soldiers, and children all looked to their emperor for hope. They did not fight for gold or glory. They fought for survival, for a world that was slipping into memory. On April 6, 1453, Mehmed's cannons roared for the first time. The earth trembled. Walls that had stood for 1,000 years cracked under the fury of iron and fire. Day and night, the Ottomans bombarded the city. The defenders repaired what they could, patching the ancient stones with wood, earth, and faith. Each sunrise brought new destruction, and yet each sunset found the Byzantine flag still flying above the towers. Inside the city, food grew scarce. Outside, the Ottoman camps burned bright with the fires of tens of thousands waiting for victory. The siege dragged on, but Mehmed's determination did not falter. The one advantage the Byzantines held was the sea. To the north, the Golden Horn, a natural harbor protected by a massive chain stretching across its entrance. No ship could pass without permission, so Mehmed devised a plan that defied reason. If he could not sail through the chain, he would go around it. In one of the most astonishing feats of engineering in history, Mehmed ordered 70 ships to be dragged over land. Over hills, forests, and mud, his men greased wooden logs and pulled entire warships across the land, at night, in total silence. When dawn broke, the Byzantines awoke to see an Ottoman fleet inside their harbor. The impossible had happened. The chain had been outsmarted, and Constantinople was now surrounded on all sides. As the weeks passed, the city grew weaker. The defenders fought bravely, led by the legendary Giovanni Giustiniani, a Genoese commander who had come to fight alongside Constantine. He held the walls with unmatched courage, rallying men wherever the cannons struck hardest. But on May 29th, before the final assault, a cannonball shattered the gate near his post, and Giustiniani was mortally wounded. When word spread that the great captain was gone, the defenders' morale began to crumble. The emperor knew the end was near. He gathered his men at the palace and spoke words that would echo through time. "The city is fallen. but we are still its guardians. Let none who have drawn the sword turn back now. Before dawn, the Ottoman drums began to thunder. Waves of soldiers surged toward the walls, first the irregulars, then the disciplined janissaries. Arrows darkened the sky. The air filled with fire, smoke, and screams. The Byzantines fought with desperate fury. Even priests took up arms, but numbers and fate were against them. As the janissaries broke through the Kerkeporta gate, chaos consumed the city. Emperor Constantine V threw off his imperial purple and joined his soldiers in the melee. He fought until he vanished in the crush of battle, his body never found. And as the rising sun illuminated the domes of Hagia Sophia, the banners of the Ottomans were raised above the city walls. Constantinople, the jewel of the ancient world, had fallen. When Mehmed entered the city, he dismounted his horse and walked through the broken gates in silence. The streets were filled with smoke and sorrow. The ancient empire was gone, but a new one had been born. He rode to Hagia Sophia, once the greatest church of Christendom, and ordered it to be converted into a mosque. There, in the vast silence of the hall, Mehmed knelt and prayed. For him, it was not the end of an empire, it was the beginning of a new one. From that day forward, he would be known as Mehmed the Conqueror. The fall of Constantinople was more than just the end of Byzantium. It was the end of the medieval world. The cannon, the weapon that tore through the city's walls, had changed the face of warfare forever. No fortress was safe now, no empire eternal. Trade routes shifted, scholars fled west, and Europe entered a new dawn, but the Renaissance, built on the ashes of the old. And so the city that once stood as the heart of the ancient world became Istanbul, the bridge between two civilizations. They say history is written by the victors, but in Constantinople the stones themselves remember both sides. The courage of Constantine, the vision of Mehmed, the prayers of those who perished, all echo still in the wind that sweeps across the Bosphorus. The walls may have fallen, but the story never did. For this was not merely the fall of a city. It was the turning of an age, when faith met fire and destiny was decided by cannon and courage. And from its ruins, the modern world was born.